have here today is our kind of mild-mannered dual sport Shootout. Now, if you're a salty off-road guy or dual sporter, you're going to look at these two motorcycles, a Husqvarna and a Suzuki DR-Z, and recognize that there's a pretty fair amount of disparity between these two. But if you're new to dual sporting, I'm going to give you a little bit of an education. Even though there's a big gap between what these motorcycles can do, we're going to point out some of the highlights of each that make them somewhat comparable.
We've got the Suzuki here, which is a far more streetable dual-purpose bike, and we've got the Husky that is a far more off-road focused motorcycle. One of the big things we've got to look at is a price. We got a $1,400 price difference here. You've got a larger displacement bike here in the Suzuki, so can the more race-oriented dirt bike Husqvarna bridge that gap with the DRZ here?
Okay, well, this thing certainly lives up to what Husky's claim is about it, that it's 90% dirt and 10% street. It really is a hardcore, in terms of dual sport, off-road motorcycle. But a couple key features that really make this likable to me is its lower seat height. It's got just a 35-inch seat height, yet it still has over 11.5 inches of suspension travel. But the lower seat height combined with the lighter weight really make it maneuverable off-road. It's got snappy, quick steering, changes direction easily, and because of the lightweight and the lower seat height, it's really confidence-inspiring, especially for somebody like me that's got a 30-inch inseam.
Well, one of the big differences between these two bikes is going to be weight. Suzuki's got 60-some pounds on the Husqvarna, and doing any type of off-road that includes a lot of speed, you're going to feel the weight difference between the two.
So anybody that's been around motorcycles a while, or you're even kind of a seasoned off-roader, you can just take one sweeping glance at the Husky and see it looks like a serious trail bike, a dirt bike. A couple key things that make that obvious are its, first of all, its tires. Metzeler Carews. They are street legal, but you can see by the large lugs that this is very much a dirt bike tire, in contrast to what the Suzuki has. What a tire like this is going to do for you, if you're not fully aware, it's going to give you a lot better bite in dirt, gravel, basically anything that isn't pavement. That's going to improve your traction off-road, so it's really going to dig in under acceleration. Part of the motorcycle, the 250 single, also very dirt bike-like in nature. It's revvy, peaky, makes a lot of its power up top, but it still has a good amount of torque, and it's able to lug second gear at fairly low RPM, which is handy off-road. The clutch is really easy to actuate in off-road settings. It has excellent feel at the clutch lever, so it lets you pick your way around tight technical sections without too much problem. You don't even have to put your foot down at times.
So what makes the Suzuki DR400Z a more streetable dual-purpose bike? A few things. You've got an instrument cluster up here, which is far more streetable. You got 2 trip meters, and I mean, just kind of a full gauge setup compared to the Husky's little Timex looking thing. You've got passenger foot pegs back here. There's no passenger accommodations on the Husqvarna. The Suzuki has a metal tank. Got a plastic tank on the Husky. Got a locking gas cap where the Husky does not, and it also has a helmet lock on the left side of the motorcycle. Again, something the Husky does not offer. Riding over some of the really kind of rutted, rough stuff, you could feel that in the Suzuki, again, because its suspension is plusher, and so it's not going to handle that kind of terrain as well. And again, the weight being up higher, you know, you just couldn't tackle some of that stuff as well as the Husqvarna did. Suzuki has also these rubber foot pegs inside, which you can 2 bolts underneath, pull those out, and then you just have a more off-road ready foot peg. But for street riding, the rubber peg is a nice option to have. The Suzuki is a much more street-worthy tire, whereas the knobbies on the Husqvarna are definitely a dirt-oriented knobby tire. With these two particular bikes, you know, again, a more streetable Suzuki, a more dirt-worthy Husqvarna. Again, no revelation here. If you are a novice rider, let's say, do you need to spend the extra money to buy the Husky because it's a better dirt bike? And I think Pete and I are both of the same opinion that you do not, unless you have the skills to really utilize that bike.
It's a dirt bike with a couple turn signals and some emissions issues to give it a license plate. Otherwise, it is an off-road motorcycle to the core. The DR-Z, it's a known quantity in this shootout. It's been around for what seems like eons. There isn't a whole lot that's new about it. They haven't changed it much. So if you're familiar with it, you've heard the name, you know that it makes a good street bike, as Tom said. And I guess if we had to take both of these motorcycles and strictly force them into the dual sport category of motorcycle that does both things fairly well, DR-Z might hedge that a little bit better. The Husky sacrifices a lot more on the street side to live up to its off-roading nature.
Yeah, you have to be a dedicated person to spend the extra money to get the lesser displacement motorcycle here. So if you're not committed to being that, high-end or committed dirt bike rider, really this, DR-Z Suzuki is going to give you pretty much what you need in terms of technology and performance to do some good off-road riding.
If you're getting into hardcore riding or you're more hardcore rider, you like to air it out a little bit, do some tail whips, jumps, this is the bike to have of these two right here. So what was Yamaha thinking here?
I don't know, man. I'm sure we said WR250.